Okay, so we do the evaluation. We get P of 5 is 1221.40, P of 10 is 1491. And now we graph the thing. You weren't asked to do that, I'm just demonstrating because you could easily graph it. So we set up the graph from T from 0 to 10 with 2 here and 5 here. And P of T starting at 1,000, it stops at less than 1,500, so we'll go, but very close to 1,500, so we stop there. And now we have 2 points on the graph. What kind of a function is this? Well, we don't have it on tape, but somebody said linear. Okay? And so we can't incriminate anybody over this. But no, it's not linear. It's an exponential function. Your exponent is a multiple of your variable. Okay? So that means that this is just a shifted and stretched 2 to the t function, or 2 to the x function. Okay, so it has the shape of a 2 to the t or a 2 to the x function, right? So it's going to be something like this. I didn't draw that real well, but yeah, it's not going to give us an accurate estimate. We're going to make an estimate based on the graph and see how close it is, just to understand what this is going to do. Now, what do you know happens to the 2 to the t function? It keeps getting steeper and steeper, and eventually gets really steep, right? Which means if you wait long enough, your money's going to be shooting up rapidly. Of course, it's probably not going to be worth any more than it is now because of inflation, but you know, that's a different story. Okay, so actually you do beat inflation with good investments. At least that's historically what's happened. So we have this. Now at 2, well, let's look at 5. At 5, you project over here, and you can see because the graph is curving upward, that even though 5 is halfway between 0 and 10, the number that you get here is not going to be halfway between 1,000 and 1,500. If this was a linear graph, it would be halfway between, that'd be 1,250, but it's not. It's actually a little less than that, and it's actually 1,221, okay? So we have this point here, we have our 1,221. I don't have room to write in the 1,083 we get at 2 years, but we see where that would be, and we see it's very plausible that that would be 1,083, right? Okay? So there's our graph. Now, where's 10,000? Because the other question is, when do you have $10,000, right?
So you gotta do.
So where's that on this graph? Well, $10,000 is 10 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then twice that puts us up, oh, about here maybe, probably up a little bit above this. There's our 10,000. So how far are we going to have to go out here before we hit up to 10,000? Where do you think we'll be? Follow this curve, going up, going up, going up. We're going to still be in the room?
No. We'll be in the next
Well,
one.
this is like a 2 to the t graph, right? It's going to get steeper. I think we're still going to be in the room. I don't know if we're going to be to the end of that board or not. So if I follow the curvature of what I have here, I'm thinking somewhere around the end of this board here. That's 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 years.
108.
Well, it might be. Yeah, this is a graph that I just sketched, and I told you it wasn't all that accurate, right? Okay? Now, if I did a really good 2 to the t graph and then relabeled it, I could figure this out from that graph. And I want you to understand graphs well enough to relabel that, because a lot of the information that you're going to be interpreting in your life is going to be presented in terms of graphs. Okay? And the things that you get in more advanced courses are going to rely a lot on graphs and their characteristics, their patterns, and their behaviors. Okay? Which is why we started this course with your basic graphs, for 2 reasons, because graphs are really important. They represent your functions. And also because it gives you the picture. There are linear functions, there are quadratic functions, there are exponential functions. Now there are logarithmic functions and power functions, right? you have to understand that those functions behave differently. And you have to understand how those functions can be used to help you understand the world. Okay? Understand your profession, understand your financial life, etc. Okay? So that's why we're doing this. Well, let's go on to this question. Now, you've got the machinery to answer this question. You know how to answer this question. Okay? But let's show you that you do.